Setbacks are unavoidable, but giving up is unforgivable. We all get knocked down. But the measure of our character, as my dad would say, is how quickly we get back up. Remember, a defeat does not mean we are defeated. We lost this battle. We're going to be okay, but we need to stay engaged. We need to keep going. And above all, we need to keep the faith.
That was more from President Biden's speech from the Rose Garden yesterday following Donald Trump's win this week. Joining us now, White House reporter for the Wall Street Journal, our friend Ken Thomas. Ken, striking to meet President Biden addressed the nation from the Rose Garden, just as then President Obama did 8 years ago when Trump won the first time. Tell us a little bit more about his remarks yesterday. You know, he has, of course, conveyed Trump as an existential threat to our nation's democracy, but yet yesterday pledged to adhere to the tenets of America's founding and a peaceful transfer of power.
Yeah, it was 8 years to the day, nearly to the day, when Obama and Biden were there in the Rose Garden. You know, I think he tried to say that there's, you know, a peaceful transfer of power that will come. He praised Kamala Harris's campaign and tried to keep his team engaged and talk about some of the accomplishments that they made. But, you know, I think behind the scenes, there's a lot of frustration with Biden right now that he, you know, ran for a second term and took so long after that debate to get out of the race. You know, we certainly saw some of that in a tweet from David Plouffe, a Harris advisor. He said that, you know, we dug into it. We were dug into a deep hole and we were able to get out, but it wasn't enough. And that tweet was then deleted. But I think it really speaks to the frustration we're hearing within this party. You know, we're going to see Biden meet with Trump next week, and there will certainly be, you know, the two teams will be working together. It sounds like on the transition, but there's just an enormous amount of consternation right now within the party about what just happened.
We should note Plouffe deleted his entire Twitter X account, even.
Yeah.
So let's dive into more. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes finger pointing. It's starting to break out into the open here among Democrats, second-guessing the vice president's messaging, you know, second-guessing the president's decisions. And it does seem like Biden himself catching a lot of the blame. You know, it is, some of his aides have said to me that a difference of a couple of weeks, if he had bowed out a couple of weeks earlier in the summer, that really wouldn't have mattered. The real issue would have been had he stepped aside, let's say, after the 2022 midterms, when his record sparkling and Democrats had done well, but there was already polls reflected a sense that Americans simply thought he was too old, that they liked his job during those first 2 years, but they weren't sure they wanted to have another 6.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of frustration with his advisors for, you know, encouraging him to run. And as you remember, after that 2022 midterms, there really wasn't a serious debate internally about whether he should run or not. I mean, there was just this idea that he performed well, the party performed well in the midterms, and that means he should automatically run for re-election. That's what our reporting showed, you know, in this piece, just that, you know, no one was going to tell somebody who had been running for president for 50 years and finally got the job that he should not run for a second term. And so a lot of Democrats feel like, you know, that put them in real deep trouble from the get-go. There wasn't this opportunity to have an open primary process. You know, the party has a very strong bench. You know, there could have been, you know, a real debate and maybe, you know, get behind somebody as opposed to this 100-day campaign with Harris. And by all accounts, she performed very well. I think a lot of people in the party feel that she did everything she could. But in the end, they were dealing with this, you know, wrong track of about 70%. That's something most incumbent party candidates can't overcome. And just Joe Biden at 40% approval. It's very difficult for anybody to overcome those types of forces within our politics.
Yeah, there's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking happening on, but you're right to point out that back in 2022, there wasn't much of a debate about Biden running again, despite the polls that Americans said maybe he's too old. He also delivered a stellar State of the Union in early 2023. But it does seem the Democrats, their problems are bigger than just Biden or Harris. And you've got some new reporting about the serious soul searching that needs to come for this party in the weeks, months, and even years to come, because this was a wipeout. And Donald Trump and the Republicans gained a greater percentage of votes in 48 of the 50 states and over 90% of the nation's counties.
Yeah, and, look, this is the first time in 20 years that Democrats are going to lose the popular vote, and they lost among a number of demographics who were normally with them. Hispanic men, as Congressman Curbelo just spoke about. Black men. We're going to know more as the data comes in, but this is I think a fundamental reckoning within the party. You're going to see in the days ahead. I mean, Bernie Sanders had a scathing statement out the other day just on the party's inability to connect with working class voters. I think you're going to see him this weekend. The other place you're going to see this happen is in the DNC chairman's race. I think you'll have an open process to pick the next chair of the DNC, and I think that this whole debate will be part of that election process.
Yeah, and Ken, lastly, our last 20 seconds here, that DNC race, there really isn't a real party leader right now. Who takes the mantle? Schumer, Jeffries, who is it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could see Jeffries as potentially the leader of the party, just given where the House is much more narrow. But there's no one really who's expected to emerge. I think they're going to have to look to a lot of governors around the country for leadership for the next generation.
Yeah, that was the role Nancy Pelosi played the first time when Trump won. But right now, an open question. Really terrific reporting for us this morning from White House reporter for the Wall Street Journal, Ken Thomas. Ken, thank you for joining us at the end of a long week. Come back soon.